Accept.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled Springersbury Township Board of Supervisors meeting. Our first item will be a pledge to the flag. Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. There have been no executive sessions since our last meeting, so at this point I would like to open up the floor to communication from citizens. If there's anyone either in the audience here or on Zoom who would like to comment to the board, please raise your hand to do so. On Zoom, please click the raise hand button and you will be recognized. Anyone? Yes, please. Come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Gloria Patahovich, 705 Sundale Drive. So I'm the first time here. Thank you.
Welcome.
My question is, and I don't know if it's right time, perhaps the Springersbury Commons project? Am I saying that right?
Mount Zion Commons.
That's, yeah, the Commons. Thank you.
Intersection of East Market Street and.
It's just a question, if it's approved, it stated in the paper there would be 170 apartments. My question is, what kind of apartments are they? Are they like luxury, low income, children? Do we know?
I believe.
Yeah, that's all part of the plan, and that's been, yeah, that's market rate apartments.
Okay. Has it been approved? I mean, all I need to know.
No, we're early in the process.
But-
We've just been through the conditional use hearing. There's still subdivision and land development that has to be gone through. There's a lot of time left before that plan is actually approved.
Okay. So at the time that they're submitting it, they're not saying what kind of apartments if it's accepted?
They've told us that they're market rate apartments.
Market rate, whatever the market will bear
Okay.
for rent.
And there's
They're not
100.
luxury and they're not low income.
Okay. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Brenda Enders. I live at 720 Sundale Drive, and I had a question about, in my backyard is the elementary school that they want to be building on. Is there a spring in that whole area? Because I've noticed they've been digging in the yard, in the back and taking it off. But I know when I put my back patio on, we had a water issue. So, and I'm told that there's springs all back there. And my concern was, and I brought it up at the meeting the other night, about when they start building the school, is it going to be collapsing? Because the whole area and the school path also has springs in it. And I didn't know if the township knows that, if they have that information or not.
So that wouldn't be at the board level. Maybe our engineer could answer that, Mr. Luciani.
I did look at, as discussed in a very brief meeting, and we also looked at traffic. I'll just tell you, no plan has been submitted, but there is a substantial pipe that passes through the, I guess I'll say, the west side of the parcel. And we had discussions about that pipe and its ability to collect water. So, yes, we know there may be a lot of groundwater, there may be a lot of even runoff water from upstream that they need to pass through and under Erlin Avenue or Erlin Road. So to answer your question, because of the topography, we recognize there's a lot of water. And one of the things that the school district will do is a geotechnical evaluation to see at what depth the water is, and they'll have to deal with that at that time.
Yeah, because a couple months ago and stuff, they were drilling. They had the drill going down in, and now they have holes actually dug out, and they have it like roped off.
more than likely, in order to go get approval through the township process, you got to manage your stormwater. The new emphasis is on putting the water back in the ground, and that's probably why they dug the test pits that you see, to see if that's even possible.
Yeah, because I was just concerned about it, like for the school and stuff, if they're going to be building that school and it's going to be collapsing. But, and, because I've been there in my house for 36 years, and the street in front of my house, which right across from my house is Brighton Road, Brighton Drive. And in there, they fixed the road a couple times, but it's all broke up. Everything's broke up, and since I've lived there, they have no curbing, and the water comes in on my sidewalk, and it's lifted at 2 spots. And the traffic is really an issue, and if they were saying about they're going to put a road there to go to the school.
Correct, that's
down
going to be the
school
bus,
path.
that's
It's-
proposed to be the bus route, and when I give my update to the board, I'll tell you what we're going to do on traffic there.
Because, I'm concerned, because if they, and I know that somebody has to know that there's springs back there, and that was just and nobody's responded or give us anything, but, okay? But
Absolutely.
If they're going to take all that traffic on that road, they're going to have to definitely do something to Sundale Drive,
We're talking about it.
okay? All right, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Anybody on Zoom? All right, thank you. We'll move on to engineering reports. Diana?
Good evening. I have nothing to add or change on the report that we submitted, so if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Anybody? Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Probably the only update, and I'll just touch a little more on it, is last week we met with Public Works, the manager, community development, and the police department to talk about, all right, what are the concerns with traffic? Because the traffic consultant, TRG, for the school district wrote a letter saying, telling us which intersections they believe need to be evaluated, and we added a substantial number of streets to that, including, you might say, well, why? One of the add-on list was Mount Zion Road and Haynes Road. And the reason why is because currently their plan is gonna be to close Indian Rock Dam. Those kids will now be bused to that school district. So they're going to have an impact on the school district with a number of buses. So in addition to the additional study intersections that we had requested, we also asked them to look at turning movements to get the buses in, as the last lady testified to, that's going to be a traffic concern. And then we were trying to get the cart in front of the horse. We asked them to also look at if they're going to change the school speed zone, might as well get that on the list of things. And then finally, as we all know, the roadway system there is pretty narrow. It's like normally a 20-some foot wide roadway. There is no parking prohibition, to my knowledge, in most of those areas. So if we have cars parked on both sides of the road and the buses are trying to navigate into the site and back out, we want to make sure that the bus could adequately maneuver in and out, and if changes need to be made, we want to use that as part of the development process. So I thought it was a very good internal meeting, and when I did talk to TRG about it, they said, well, we're really not sure what the traffic impact with the busing would be, so I don't think they were opposed to what we added to their list. Any other questions on my report?
Questions, anyone? No. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
All right, next we have our consent agenda, 3 items, A, B, and C.
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A, B, and C.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have bids, proposals, contracts, and agreements. First one is authorization to execute traffic signal easement agreement with AAA Southern PA, Eastern Boulevard, and Northern Way intersection.
Mr. Chairman, this is needed right-of-way. We need to add traffic signal equipment for our upcoming traffic signal project at that intersection.
Sorry.
Do I hear a motion? Anyone?
I move to authorize execution of the traffic signal agreement with AAA.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have authorization to purchase traffic signal equipment from Armor and Sons Electric Incorporated for the Eastern Boulevard Kingston Road intersection in an amount not to exceed $104,453, and it's CoStar's contract 016-018.
Mr. Chairman, I move for authorization to purchase traffic signal equipment from Armor and Sons Electric, Inc. for the Eastern Boulevard Kingston Road intersection in an amount not to exceed $104,453. CoStar's contract number 016-018.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Next, we have authorization to purchase signal equipment from Armor and Sons Electric Incorporated for Eastern Boulevard Northern Way intersection in an amount not to exceed $107,212. CoStar's contract 016-018. Same contract number?
Yes,
Okay, just 2 lines on the same contract.
correct.
Mr. Chairman, I move to authorize the purchase of traffic signal equipment from Armor and Sons Electric, Inc. for the Eastern Boulevard Northern Way intersection in an amount not to exceed $107,212 under the same CoStar's contract 016-018.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Authorization to award multi-municipal 2024-2025 traffic line painting and pavement marking contract to Alpha Space Control LLC in a grand total amount of $232,945.50. That is the total contract. It's multi-municipal. The Spring-Sperry portion is $20,073.50.
Mr. Chairman, as I've stated before, this is the multi-municipal contract. So since it was our turn to bid the contract, the board has to authorize the overall contract, and in that is our portion, which is the $20,000 number.
Mark, does that include the state roads within the township, or is that just township roads?
The longitudinal lines are township. The horizontal lines, so stop bars and such, are on state roads and township roads. So it's a little of both.
We'll move to authorize awarding the multi-municipal 2024-2025 traffic line painting and pavement marking contract to Alpha Space Control LLC in the grand total amount of $232,945.50, with Spring & Sperry's portion being $20,073.50.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mark, one question. That Alpha Space Control LLC, is that a new entrant in this business, or have they been around forever?
No, they've been around. They're from Chambersburg, and over the recent, I can't remember how many years, but quite a number of years, it's has been between them and D.E. Gemmel. D.E. Gemmel's out of the Red Line area, and they're out of Chambersburg, but they're both reputable companies, and they have done work in this contract before.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have communication from citizens. Anybody have anything before I turn the floor over to Charles?
Presumptive.
All right, it's all yours.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you have seen through some email correspondence you have before you, the resolutions that are going to be before us at the Pennsylvania State Association of Township Supervisors annual conference this coming week. And certainly, if you have any comments or anything on any of the resolutions before you, these have been through the Resolutions Committee and will go to the floor. One of the options, certainly as your delegate at the PSATS conference, is if you want to express some opinions and perspectives as a supervisor, feel free to do so to me through email, or we can talk here even after the meeting. I'm happy to reflect the township's position relative to these resolutions and certainly vote accordingly on the floor. In years past, I know Supervisor Bishop has been more than excited to allow me as your delegate to handle all of the resolution issues at the PSATS conference. And I'm sure he's going to be of that persuasion again. But if that is not the case and you guys want to weigh in, feel free to let me know. The resolutions are before you, and happy to represent Spring & Sperry at the conference. I will be also taking the flag for the Parade of Flags for the 3rd year in a row. So,
Charles, first, I just want to say thank you for stepping up and doing that. That's certainly an important role for the township, and appreciate you being willing to step forward and take the time to do that on behalf of the township.
well, thank you, George.
I do have 3 resolutions here. I at least want to give you some feedback now.
Okay,
Because
good.
it's always dangerous to try and comment on something based on a 1 or 2 sentence resolution when you don't know all the details behind it. So with that in mind, I'll just say that Resolution 2402 concerns me in terms of extending workers' comp coverage to volunteers for fundraisers. So
Understood.
if you would,
And I second that concern. That was on my list as well.
Okay.
2415 gave me some pause. Because if I understand the Pennsylvania prevailing wage law, that unnecessarily drives up our costs for projects, and we're looking to increase the ability to raise those costs further.
Wait, let me look at 15.
So I had the similar question. My question was, does increasing that amount mean that we don't pay prevailing wage underneath a certain limit? So I was thinking, I'm hoping it's the opposite of what you're fearing that it is, George.
And Mark is correct. The idea is right now there's a threshold for what you need.
$100,000.
Yes.
Over
and
that, you have to pay prevailing wage.
we wanted to index it so it rises with
That makes
inflation.
sense to me.
So
Thank
that's why
Okay.
that one is,
Good.
yes.
Take that one off my list, too.
All right. And then the last one, 2417, create an exemption for municipal employees. I don't know whether that makes sense or not. I'm not sure why you wouldn't exempt all drivers and why only municipal employees.
Yeah, so this was an interesting struggle, and Manager Hodgkinson had the same issues with this. Bottom line is why this is coming or why this is here, why there was support is, as you may recall, there are a lot of rural townships, and the reality is they cannot find drivers, qualified drivers, to do the very minimum work in some of these townships. That's why they were advocating for this.
So the solution is put unqualified drivers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I hear what you're saying, but otherwise.
Sounds like a bad idea to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in support of a resolution that would require those townships to support their drivers going to school and earning the appropriate credentials
Yeah.
to be able to drive the trucks.
That was all I had.
Yeah.
So there were two others that jumped out at me. One was the fire hydrants and water supply one, 24-04. This is seeking legislation to allow townships to install and maintain those water supplies. I don't understand what this is even getting at or why, and I understand that they want to tax rural residents now for a service that, I mean, it's water. It's sitting there. I'm sure that we have tankers that travel all over the place delivering extra water for fires. And just curious why we need extra legislation.
And as I recall on this one, the purpose was to essentially amend the second-class township code to define the rural water supplies as a revenue source so that it could be taxed. That's why I think they were getting it to this. And the former part of this is to expand the definition of rural water supplies to allow the fire hydrant tax and so forth. That's the rationale behind it.
It seems like a stretch. I mean, are they charging for service?
Technically, I think the way I read this, and as I recall the discussion, they cannot now charge for the services or tax the services.
Well, if you're charging for service, why do you need to also tax it? Because isn't the tax to pay for the service?
So the tax, so installation maintenance.
I mean, I don't think that really
So-
affects us anyway, so I'm
It
not
really
so
does
sure
not.
it matters. It strikes me as odd. There was another one in here allowing us to, and I don't remember what the number is, but let me see if I can find it quickly. That allows us to take care of markers and headstones for,
Yeah, it's the first one, I think.
is it?
01.
That's early on.
Okay. Maintain and repair memorials for first responders. So does this mean we have to, that we can, that we're not allowed to now? I
My
don't
understanding
understand
was
why
that we were
need-
not allowed to now
We're not allowed to maintain anything.
per the second-class township code.
But this is not going to require that we do.
Would not be, it would authorize us, but not require. Correct.
Okay. Now, there's 9 pages of these things. There was one more that jumped out at me that was allowing the government to provide an efficient, cost-effective solution to something. I don't, government and efficient, cost-effective,
They call that an oxymoron, don't they?
yeah.
We are so
So-
efficient as a
Except in
government, we
Spring
could cut
Township.
taxes.
I'm opposed to that one just because of the way they stated that sentence in here, but.
What number was that, Mark? Do you have?
I don't remember. It was further down in the list. I'm looking.
The landslide sinkhole insurance, 24-29?
Yes.
Yeah. So we understand that there are some cases of serious potential sinkhole situations developing out in Allegheny County. And so they were looking at some sort of statewide administered insurance program to reduce the property loss associated with landslides that can exceed your homeowner's insurance.
An efficient state-administered insurance program. Are you telling me it's a good idea?
Let me put it to you this way. I found myself in the minority on the resolution committee with a lot of these that came up that they ended up supporting.
You can mark that one as one that I have a problem with. I don't know if that changes the township's position in general, but
Well, to the extent that any of you raise objections to it, it does. It alters my vote, my perspective. Your silence means you leave it to my discretion. Your comments give me a reason to represent your voice on the floor.
okay, I've been heard.
And
I would like to agree with the message we got from the township manager that 24/7 is probably troublesome to us, especially with respect to the bizarre language about having our, preventing our facilities from having malodors leaving the perimeter.
Thank you, Don. That was on my list as well.
Yep, that's on mine. So 07?
Yeah.
You guys did not like 02, 07.
It's kind of ridiculous in a couple of ways because I'm not sure why PSATs would have a resolution urging the Department of Environmental Protection to enforce laws that already exist.
Because they're not doing
I mean,
it in
that's-
certain townships. That's why that was an issue.
It seems like a pretty general thing to say, though.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I got 24, 29,
17, that was the
24.
CDL.
17 I got.
Yeah.
15.
15 we do support because that index is the threshold.
That's correct. That's
Yeah,
correct.
we want
Yes.
15.
Anything else on the list?
So I'm hearing 2, 7, 17, 29. I think I'm missing one. 217, 7, 29.
I think that's it.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen, for your feedback. Supervisor Cox, you have anything?
I have nothing for you.
All right, good.
I do have a communication, though, if we're
Okay.
still open to communications from supervisors.
Yes, I'm well and truly done at this.
No, you lost your chance when I asked you first.
You actually turned it directly over to Charles. Spring Garden Township, in the Spring Township Volunteer Fire and Rescue meeting on April 1st, it was announced that Spring Garden Township has been successful in obtaining 2 grants. One from T-Mobile for $120,000 to repair the parking lot at the Victory Fire Hall, and a second one from the Pennsylvania Gaming Fund for $163,000 to replace 3 vehicles with hybrid vehicles. And I just thought that was interesting. I've already shared it with the township manager, so he's well aware. But something for us to maybe go after.
Interesting.
That's all I had.
Anything else? All right, James, Solicitor's Report.
No report for this meeting.
Mark, Manager's Report.
The only thing I want to update to my written report is we did receive 4 RFPs for the camp security master plan. The deadline was yesterday at 2 p.m., and we did receive 4. They will be evaluated and then presented to the Park and Rec Board for their review and recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So I look for that to come to this board, either the second April meeting or the first May meeting. That is it.
I have one question or comment for the manager. I think it's the last item on your report about the Spring Garden Township's request that we join with them to do something about getting a bicycle path. And as I attempted to follow the timeline, I think we've now been waiting a year to schedule a meeting with them, and they haven't responded.
They have not, and since I have not received a comment, I have contacted PennDOT's consultant on the overall project to see if there's something that we could do as ourselves in Springettsbury Township.
Right, great. Yeah, I think it's a good idea, and I don't think we ever want to be in a position where we're waiting around for Spring Garden Township to get around to doing something that we think is a good idea.
Anything else for the manager?
Nothing.
Anything on old business that we want to discuss this evening?
Oh, well, what did I bring up? Volunteer recognition. I thought that was under new business, but I guess it is old. I just have, I think that this is something that we need to address as a board. Yeah, there are a whole lot of people that put a lot of effort into making this township work better. I don't have any specific recommendations. I think it's just something we need to address. I hope that if we're going to address it, that we come up with something that's not just some kind of an event or something like that that just happens and disappears, but something that we can kind of build into the culture of the organization, and something that hopefully reaches out to all levels of the organization, because there's a whole lot of people that do a whole lot of stuff along the way. And yeah, so I don't have a proposal or anything, but I think it's something, if the board is inclined to do something, we ought to figure out how to move forward. And clearly with the manager's help.
Don, I agree with you.
The HR director's help.
Don, I agree with you. I think we should. I guess that's the question. Do we want to set a time when we can get some proposals of ideas that we could vet? Or do you think this warrants its own special work session for discussion? Or what's anyone think?
Probably a specific work session. I mean, I have a number of ideas from places that I've worked over the years and the recognition programs that they've had.
Right.
I'm sure that everyone else here has had similar experiences. So if we share some of those and maybe take a look at what other municipal entities are doing, if anything, maybe we'll end up leading the way. I know that Chief King's wife is very good at this.
I do know some local municipalities have events to honor, or maybe not honor is not the best word, but recognize their volunteers. But we could expand on that and come up with what we think's the best.
Two places that I've worked have budgets set aside for people to recognize other people, whether it's same department, different department, at varying levels. Lower end, small dollar value, but a certificate, a small monetary award that can be handed out very easily. As you go up the ladder, you need higher and higher approval levels. So that's one possibility.
Another possibility is having a volunteer recognition at one of the Spring and Sperry concerts. Have everyone come up on stage. That could be another thing where we all recognize them for their years, for their service, or even recognize milestones in the number of years of service to the organization. And those could be like an ongoing process. I think what I'm hearing, Don, is something that it's ingrained into the culture, something that we do on a periodic basis. Is what you're
Right.
looking for?
Yeah, I agree completely. And maybe another way to say some of it, I mean, I like the idea of the concerts, and I think another opportunity we have is to kind of build community. You know, if there was maybe recognition at a concert, and maybe, you know, all of our people or volunteers or whatever, you know, we've got one of the pavilions set up with dinner for them or something like that.
Yeah, that's a good way to do that in the concert at the same time. Yeah, good idea.
Right. Yeah. Where it's really visible to the whole community too.
Exactly.
At least that part of it.
Yeah.
So I think the challenge at this point is for us to figure out, you know, who's going to do what when.
I think we want a work
And-
session.
Yeah, I think we do.
I agree with a work session, but I think we need to have some planning done before a work session somehow or another.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know,
If-
maybe
if
I'm
the-
wrong.
If the group of us are going to be sitting around spitballing ideas, it probably has to be advertised.
That for certain will have to happen.
Right.
So one way or the other. I think another thing that we talked about was whatever the levels of stipend are for some of the volunteer boards and how we can make that more attractive for people. I mean, there's more to it than just a simple, annual dinner or something like that. There's more.
I like the idea of Nitsa and Mark sitting down together and Mark checking with the other townships to see what they do, putting a preliminary list together so we have something to work from when we sit down.
I'll see what I find out at the conference if anyone has
Sure,
programs.
that's a great idea. Use PSATs.
Anything else on this one?
Do we want to schedule this work session?
Probably do.
Like this year?
Yeah, we have the strategic plan coming up in June. So. I don't know, can we do it, how
Soon?
The
I mean, you don't want-
second meeting in May will be police pension, so that one's kind of off the table. If you want to do it before a board meeting. If you don't want to do it before a board meeting, you have any night is available, then we can also do that.
if we want to do something in the concert series, we ought to do it sooner, have the work session sooner if we're going to plan that to use that as a vehicle or some sort of tool as part of the recognition program.
So Mark, are you saying the first meeting in May, we would have time before the regular meeting?
I
No.
believe so, but Dory's nodding yes, so there's nothing scheduled before the May meeting.
What about,
First May meeting.
First May meeting. It's the second that has the pension.
Correct.
so what about the Thursday between this meeting and the next meeting on the 25th? If you want to do it sooner.
Or is there
Yeah.
anything before the meeting on the 25th?
Or on the 25th,
The
yes.
25th, we could do it at 6 o'clock. Give us an hour to.
They didn't say next Thursday, did they?
Will that be enough time for ideas to compile? Would that be enough time?
Just
for
a
you to-
quick question. Did I hear next Thursday? That's the PC meeting, if I heard that thrown out there.
Doesn't have to be in this room.
Oh,
and it
okay.
can be at a-
I'm just
yeah.
making you aware that we do have a meeting next Thursday.
Are we talking the 17th or the 24th?
I was talking the 18th, but 17th would probably be better.
Oh, yeah, you're right, the 18th. Yeah. Fine with me. Whatever.
The 18th or the 17th?
Don said the 17th.
I just don't know how to read a calendar. It's,
17th is a Wednesday.
Does that give us enough time to advertise? It's,
This is the 11th.
24th, 25th? 25th before the meeting, 6 o'clock.
That sounds good.
right?
All right. All right, if nothing else here, then on to new business. We have a discussion on draft resolution for Yaufer. So just to give a summary of this, Yelfer had determined that they needed several pieces of equipment. The various municipalities agreed, I think, in principle, the amount of those. It was 2 Pierce Enforcer custom pumpers and a Pierce Enforcer walk-in heavy-duty rescue, and I don't know how to pronounce that word, platform. Stutfin? And the amount is $5,655,590.52 for all of that equipment together. What's required is that each of the member municipalities need to pass a resolution supporting this purchase, and that is divided according to the appropriate formula between the different townships. Discussion? Questions?
So I'm just curious what this will do for our capital budgeting here at the township.
we didn't flesh it all the way. There's 2 options. my preferred option at this time would be to pay our portion lump sum, not get into a borrowing situation. Or the other option would be to do a borrowing for our share. So those are the two options that we have.
I think the other piece to this that's important to know is, as I understand it, the equipment's ordered now, but it's coming in actually a few years from now. I forget the
Yeah,
exact
it takes a
cycle,
while
but
for it to get
It's
here.
a long lead time for this
24
equipment,
to
so the outlay of
36.
cash doesn't all happen at one time.
Yeah, it's 24 to 30 some months.
So we have control of the cash until we have to pay it out.
Correct.
And that does give us the opportunity to budget for this from the capital
In future years.
budget perspective. But committing to that, what does that do to some of the capital budgeting
Wasn't
impacts?
this,
Do we have it set
I
aside?
thought that this was brought up in the budget cycle last year.
I don't know that it was brought up in that regard.
Chief, can you shed any light on that?
Can you come up, Chief? Can you come up, talk?
When we prepared our budget last year, we did not have the final figures that are in front of you now, but we did estimate costs. Unfortunately, it was less than it ended up being, but we did estimate costs so we could show a projection. And that was based on a finance plan, another 6-year finance plan is what we showed in the capital budget last year. We did not anticipate the townships taking the road of, funding it individually.
Oh, that's the grant funding piece.
Don't you have it right at your fingertips, George?
I don't.
The first resolution is approving the purchase of the equipment. And then committing to a finance plan would be separate at a later date.
I don't remember the exact figure, but I believe, if I remember correctly, in the capital plan that we presented last year, we were estimating $800,000 payment on an annual payment for 6 years, 800 and some change. Obviously, that was up from the $500,000 that we were committing to with the previous finance plan. We did not anticipate apparatus costs, in some cases doubling since our last purchase.
So I think during that planning process, we agreed in principle that this was necessary, and at this point, we need to pass this resolution to actually agree to the specific cost that now is contracted.
Do we have a resolution number for this?
Well, this is just my understanding, Chief, is this is just a discussion on the resolution,
So you're not looking for action tonight?
not looking for action, looking for your input, the board's input of any changes they would like to see to the resolution. And then that'll be, the proposed changes would be discussed at the next Yalford Commission meeting.
Correct. And we have a resolution prepared, or the solicitor has a resolution prepared for consideration by the Offer Commission as well on Tuesday night.
And that one's
I can
included
tell
in
you
this.
that was the intent, but both of the other townships went ahead and put it on for approval, and they've taken action already. Not that that is meant to influence anything that this board does, just for information purposes only.
Is this something that we can act on tonight?
I believe you can, because it's been advertised. It's on your agenda.
I don't know of any reason not to act.
Yeah, I think
We're
that's,
already committed here.
that's my position too.
You have a number, Dory. The number would be 34, Resolution 34.
Don, when you make your motion, it's 2024-34.
As soon as we started talking about this item on the agenda, the audio coming from you guys really got bad. Just so you know. Is it 34?
Yes.
You can hear me pretty well?
We can hear you great. 2024-34.
I move for the adoption of resolution number 2024-34.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I am just on the brink here of bringing up our capital improvements plan here. After a little bit of research. Scrolling through the PowerPoint here. Public Works, Parks and Recs, Spring Sewer. I do not see that this is anywhere in our capital plan for 2024 through 2028, as we discussed it on October 9th, 2023. Based on this handout, I don't see that we've budgeted for this.
Which is probably the reason that the chiefs, we didn't have the information at that time.
And I don't see anything in the subsequent budget document that we've added it to our capital improvements.
This will have no impact in 2024, though, correct?
Correct. Yeah, we're not anticipating any budgetary impact until early 2027 at this stage.
So we'll just have to readjust some of these other priorities that scope out to 2028 in this capital budget as a result of this.
Right. But this is the appropriate time to make sure that happens.
Well, through the budget season this year, yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Any further discussion? I have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Others?
Nay.
Carries 4-1.
Thank you for your support.
All right, that carries us to the end of our agenda. Thank you, everyone. Meeting adjourned.